Why you're such a cunt? Fuck off.
Fuck you, Trump. We're in New Mexico.
Fuck that shit.
Fuck you, shit.
There's a lot of history on Canoga, and that's what's disappointing. Like, there's literally been people who've lost their lives. There's people who've been made legends on Canoga, and people who've been racing on Canoga since before we were even born, I think.
Choosing a track is all upon the drivers. Where they feel safe at the time, where they're comfortable racing. If they know that the track is actually a quarter mile or a little more, a little less, it's basically all upon the drivers.
What's your favorite track?
What's my favorite track? Hands down, Canoga. Canoga is basically our home field. They've been using that street since the 80s, and God willing, we're gonna use it till, flying cars are invented.
What few years difference make, huh?
Yeah, that was... Damn. How long before Canoga got shut down was that recorded?
I believe this was recorded a year before. Say that at the time, we obviously couldn't predict how the whole situation unfolded. But it's interesting that he said, God willing, we will race here, even with the flying cars. And I guess God said no. So finally, we talk about Canoga. Canoga has been mentioned many times. And Canoga belonged to you more than to me. So why don't you tell me what was Canoga and what was your affiliation with it?
Canoga was short for Canoga Speedway. It was a street out in Chatsworth, or it is a street out in Chatsworth, where they would race at. The intersection is Canoga and Plummer. It's like a business/industrial type area. So late at night, it was pretty empty there. There was rarely any traffic, and it was a good street. I mean, a lot of people liked it there. The street, though, it did have a intersection as you approach the finish line, and that intersection was a stop sign. So when you raced, it actually required you to run the stop sign. So at full speed, before you get to the finish line, you're running a stop sign completely. Like there's no... So you usually required people to be down there and to be at that stop sign to stop any kind of cross traffic. And yeah, I mean, people were using it for years. I don't remember the first time I went there, but I do remember like the year or two before Canoga got shut down, there was lots and lots of races there, big races, big money races, arguments, fights. I mean, it was a pretty active street. Multiple times a week there was races going on there, apart from all the people test passing and stuff.
It definitely had some glamour to it, and also it had a certain reputation. I mean, we're not gonna go there today, but obviously there have been some serious accidents there. What also was attractive about Canoga Speedway was that it had it was almost like a dig at the starting line, so you could actually enjoy the race from an upper car park, which supposedly kind of made you safer, but also it gave like a really it replicated that sort of a start at a drag race in an NHRA track. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, so on the right side of the starting line, there was a little hillside that led up to a parking lot that was, at a higher level when compared to the street where you're racing at. So it did give you that overlook, almost as if you were sitting on bleachers at a track. And so a lot of people that would go there, they would actually stand up top and just to kind of to not be so close. And it almost, it gave you a better view for the starting line, at least.
I went to Canoga the first time that I actually met Valley Private. He took me there. I saw it when we were test passing cars. I saw it where there was like an intimate race, and I saw it where there were like up to 300 people, I'd say. There was that intersection, which was dangerous, but usually was safely guarded, as much as this can be a safe activity, by each members of a team. However, in the racing question that I would like to discuss today, which involved two GTRs, one GTR from the Valley versus a GTR from, I believe, Diamond Bar? Could be?
Was it the orange one?
Yeah.
The orange
714.
one. Yeah, the orange one is Josh Lightfoot. He's from 714 Racing.
Right. So 714, for anyone that is not from Los Angeles, is the area code for Orange County. Correct?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah. Yes.
So I selected that race because it was an equal race between arguably the best car for street racing out there. Obviously, a very pricey car, but they sort of had different philosophies in how the car were built. Joshua Lightfoot car wasn't as powerful as it is today. Or last time I saw it on social media, but nevertheless was a good race and with some drama.
I'll get a call from a certain person and they ask me if I could find them a race. So I kind of just go into my contact list and I'll find someone who I feel like is fair. And we just set it up from there. You know, in my personal life, I have a million things going on. And, you know, when it comes to street racing, I could focus my mind on one thing, I feel like. And, you know, I feel comfortable. I feel comfortable on a street with my friends, with a couple of cars. Like, that's my comfort zone.
All right, so it's showing Valley Private, County Money,
I'm not sure why.
and then it's panning over to Rubal's Red GTR, which was the Red GTR from the 818. Now it's showing them negotiating. It looks like it's Valley Private talking for Rubal's GTR, which is the red one from the 818. And it's showing, I believe that's Mike from the 714, who's talking for the orange GTR, which is Josh's car. And they're discussing lane crossing and how they're going to flag the race.
I'll point at you, stall up, flash your lights.
Are you flagging it?
Yeah, I'm a flashlight. When you're ready,
Me? Flash? Are you gonna point at him?
point at him, flash, light goes on.
Then it's showing the orange GTR, which is from 714 Racing, Mr. Josh Lightfoot.
I mean, the same shit. Same car.
It can't be like fucking.
And if you,
I'm pointing at you when you're ready. point
if
at him when
you're
ready.
way out and you cross in my lane, you're gonna get paid. If I'm way out and I cross in your lane, it's street racing. You know what I mean?
So Edward, what is this crossing lane? I think we lightly touched it on the previous episode when Pooh talked about it, but could you please reiterate it again?
Crossing lane means so when you're racing, there's usually a center line. So crossing lanes mean you're crossing that center line. So there's a line in the middle that divides the lanes, you know, your left lane, right lane. And crossing it is bad, obviously, because, I mean, it could be multiple reasons. I mean, your car is just not working right. You're losing control of your car. You know, your car is pulling you. I mean, it's just, you want to stay in your own lane. Not only because you want to stay in your own lane, because if you're starting to swerve over left and right, it's not looking too good for you. And if you're racing and you see your opponent coming to your lane, or let's say he's in front of you and he crosses completely in front of you into your lane, you're going to have to let off or stay in it and possibly hit him and cause an accident. So that's why crossing lane usually ends in a disqualification or you losing the race, because the other opponent is forced to just step on the brakes or let off the gas. So you've affected that driver now. And for this race, he's saying, if you cross lanes but you're in front of me and you're way in front of me to where it doesn't affect me, don't worry about it. You're fine. I'll still pay you. But if I cross in front of you and I'm really far ahead of you where it doesn't affect you, I'm expecting to get paid.
But if I can't really discuss where we at, we at a street race is where we at. Well, fuck it, I can tell them. Fuck you, Trump. We in New Mexico.
All right, so right now we just entered Mexico. We're about to meet up with the locals. They're having a dispute.
Who's that?
Now it's a clip of, it looks like it's Valley Private's truck. Valley Private is driving. I'm assuming I'm in the passenger seat, and it's Mr. Tiziano recording from the back seat.
All right, so right now we just entered Mexico. We're about to meet up with the locals. They're having a dispute over tribes, and they're gonna settle this the man way. You know, they're gonna cockfight with their dicks out. After that, we decided to engage in some street racing, but we're kind of scared now because we're probably gonna lose.
But the dick fighting is where it's at.
You're a fucking retard.
It's showing them checking the nitrous bottle that's inside the red GTR. I think they're checking the bottle pressure. It's now switching over to what looks like Pooh's video because I can hear him narrating it.
$2,100, $2,200. GTR versus GTR.
The way we look at it out here, it's not worth getting caught for a free race. Like it's always been about making money, and I think it's always gonna be about making money.
So it looks like there's a nitrous line that's leaking on the nitrous bottle for the red GTR. So what they did was they turned off the bottle. That way the line's not leaking. And what they said was, we don't have time to fix this. You know, just race like that and turn on the bottle once we get to the starting line. That way it only leaks when he's racing and doesn't lose bottle pressure right now. So it's not going to be working to its full potential, but
It's something.
just we're already here, so get it done.
It's still leaking. What the fuck? Oh, yes. But that's off.
Oh, that's off.
So when we get over there, we turn it on.
Yeah.
And it is what it
really
is.
bad?
It is what it is. Hey! Behind the pool or something!
Hey, stand there, back the fuck up!
You guys, go up!
Motherfucker! Back the fuck up, people die there, you fucking idiot!
Now the race is about to start. Point, light comes on. Both cars take off. They're pretty much neck and neck. Then about halfway down, the red GTR is actually slowly pulling away. Then as it approaches the finish line, the orange GTR comes around and passes them to get to the finish line first. They get back to the parking lot and they see that the red GTR actually has a flat tire, so he was losing air pressure during the race, and that could be why he was slowed down. Now they're reviewing footage. They're going frame by frame, and it's a really close race, but from this angle it looks like the orange GTR is in front by a little bit.
That was a good race.
It was badass.
Yeah.
I just fucked, dude. Like, I would honestly, if you want to re-race, though, I really don't want to race on that street, dude. It's just like, I took the chance of doing it, and look, dude, you know what I mean? It's a good street, don't get me wrong, but
Basically, it's like
that,
all we got.
dude, 2 seconds later, that could have been just as bad.
This was probably a very close race, but there's been fun races there. I wouldn't say this is a fun race. Like that time that you guys hustle the street runner boys. I think like you guys felt so much at ease and in control at Canoga. It was actually quite nice to see it.
Yeah, I mean, we were there multiple times a week. When I say we say like everyone that was from the valley that was there. I mean, it was different teams, different groups, and it was constantly just everyone not really bumping heads, but racing each other. So bumping cars, I guess we could call it. But sometimes we were there for hours. So it was like a barbecue type setting where we kind of just hung out and talked there and, you know, caught up on everything. And there was times where cops wouldn't come for 4 hours and we would just like, okay, it's kind of boring now, let's just leave. And of course there was times where cops would show up within minutes, but those last year or two, there was a lot more longer nights than shorter ones.
Why do you think? I mean, obviously cops knew about it. Do you think it was a case that they just didn't have resources, or they couldn't be bothered that night because they had bigger priorities? Because you know, it was clear that that was the place to go in the valley, and then, you know, as an alternative, it would have been like B&B or Glen Oaks, which they're not exactly close. I mean, the valley is not that big, but still, they are like 20 miles away, maybe 15.
I think as far as the police responding, I think it was maybe just hard to predict the times and the days we would be there, since it was not a regular schedule. And there's not really much going on in that area for a cop to just sit there all night. So they would randomly patrol it. And I feel that that's when they would catch us there, is when they were randomly patrolling. It was, since we were kind of far away from residential areas, I don't think it was ever a case of the people calling the police or people complaining about the noise. Actually, you know what? No, I think it's like a trailer park that was on the other side of it.
There was a trailer park, and they did call the police on complained about the noise. And there was also a hefty community of homeless people there. Some nights you will have crackheads doing strange stuff, let's say. Like, I remember once there was a guy practicing with his katana sword in the middle of it while we were recording a segment, me and Valley Private there.
Yeah, towards the end, I remember it started getting full of like it became an encampment of just tents and shopping carts full of people just sleeping there. And I remember even after it got shut down, there was a time where I drove by in the middle of the night, and there was just a bunch of like motorhomes up and down the street just parked there. I haven't been through there recently, so I'm not sure if it's still like that or not.
Imagine how confusing it must have been for the McDonald's workers or the In-N-Out workers. They have a business all night for 4 or 5 years, and all of a sudden, as soon as Canoga was shut down, everybody disappeared.
What Tiziano's talking about is the McDonald's that's nearby, where we would meet up sometimes before or after the race. So the parking lot would have about 40, 50 extra cars that were just from us. So the inside of the McDonald's was all of a sudden having a long line inside at 1, 2 in the morning, which I'm pretty sure was abnormal. But it was happening multiple times a week, so it kind of became the normal. And then suddenly it just disappeared.
It disappeared because authorities decided to hammer down on this illegal activity. In the summer of 2017, it was announced by council member Mitch Englander that some speed bumps were going to be put on Canoga. And obviously, I don't expect anyone to check the city hall for announcements, but I think as somebody passed by and saw workers prepping to put these speed bumps.
When they finally put them on, I was thinking like, someone's gonna just go over there and take them off. Like, it's not gonna be an issue. It might be down for a month or two, and then it'll go back to normal, regular business, back to nightly racing. But that never happened. I mean, no one ever went. And I think what it was is there was a lot of people that I overheard saying they would be down to go take them off. Because what the strips are, it looks like a little bit of like glue and like a hard plastic over it. So it's a small little speed bump that just, you don't want to drive over it. But they're pretty easily removable. But I think the issue is that no one wants to be the person to get caught racing after they get removed. So that's another reason why most people just like, they're not even going to remove them. There's kind of no point, because the problems that come with it afterward, if you get caught there, will probably be more severe.
But to comprehend how big of a problem was Canoga Speedway, I haven't checked recently, but at the time, if you used the Google map and switched to the satellite view, you could see the rubber strips at the starting line. So essentially, you could see the track from space. The track, of course, what we call a track, was just an open road.
Yeah, if you actually go on Google Maps and you type in Canoga Speedway, it'll actually pop up. And if you look at the street view, you can have a look at the rumble strips and the rubber. He's talking about the black lines.
So racing in Los Angeles is historical. It's been around, ever since I was a kid, my father and his father before him. So it is definitely a traditional sport.
This clip starts off with Andrew Neiman from the LAPD talking.
We have no desire to go out and ruin somebody's day. And we have to be a little more committed to the education piece, to what we refer to as engineering, where we put in some type of deterrent to discourage that activity. And then as a last resort, enforcement.
Now it's back to the truck, Valley Private's truck, him driving, me passenger, and Tiziano recording from the back seat. They're putting a little shit on the floor to deter street racing, which, from my understanding, is just one of many they're going to put on there. So we're going to go see I
think it's more than one already.
Well, the first section.
Yeah.
So it's a close-up of one of the strips. There was a little piece of plastic hanging off, and I don't know if I kicked it or Valley Private kicked it. One of us kicked it. Another view of the strips. They're about 5 to 6 feet apart. This is towards the finish line.
Watch this.
Then there's a minivan approaching. I think just random car passing by.
Oh, he's gonna go fast.
We're watching him to see how it affects his driving.
They didn't even tap the brakes. Look at that. Didn't tap the brakes at all. Not effective. Sorry.
Now it's showing city work trucks and employees setting up to put the rest of the rumble strips down.
I remember filming that because they started at the end. And so what happened is when somebody alerted me that they were start putting the rumble strip, I invited you to spend the evening with me and go and do a piece on these rumble strips. Next thing I did is for 3 mornings in a row, I woke up at 5 o'clock and I went there to catch the workers laying down the strips, because during the day the street is really busy, so you can only do it until 7 o'clock, and then the businesses will open, so you couldn't close up the road to put these rumble strips. And I remember buying donuts for the workers and befriending them, so I could film. I mean, it was public road, so I didn't need any permit, but I remember those 3 mornings.
There's a lot of history on Canoga, and that's what's disappointing. There's literally been people who've lost their lives. There's people who've been made legends on Canoga, and people who've been racing on Canoga since before we were even born, I think. And it's just that's the only downside. As far as it being a quarter-mile to race on, it's business as usual. We're just gonna find another one and do the same thing on another one. I mean, we could put rubber down on any street. It's just a matter of time. And we got a lot of patience.
Enough cars to do it too. This was perfect. There's no fucking house in sight. The memories are here. Friends I've met here for the first time. So many memories just in this little section here in this one block. But there's plenty of other streets we can race on. And that's where they're fucking up. You had a controlled setting here. You had everyone racing here. Now you're going to spread it out to... Each group's going to take their own street. I found a better street over here. No, we found a better street. And now you have 10 new streets because you closed down one street.
So we don't punish, first of all. The police department, our job is to enforce the laws that are created by the people. So there are several laws that relate to speed. One is illegal speed contests, which is typically referred to as illegal street racing. But initially, the majority of it is an infraction, and then it can go up to misdemeanor or felony depending on the severity.
It's showing them coning off one lane and starting to put rumble strips on by the starting line.
You guys ready? Testing 1, 2, 3 for voice levels. You guys good?
Now it's a daytime shot. It's showing, what do we call that, a press conference?
It's the inauguration of the rumble strips, and the guy talking is Mitch Englander.
Are you ready to rumble? Well, welcome. Today we are sending a message that our neighborhood streets are not racetracks. We're not going to tolerate this type of activity any longer in the city of Los Angeles or the San Fernando Valley. In fact, this very area here has been known for decades as the Canoga Speedway.
They've installed what they are referring to as rumble sticks or rumble humps. that basically disrupt the flow, if you will. These should deter the street racers, because one of the things that street racers are looking for is locations that have good road surface. And when you put something in the roadway that disrupts that surface, that can be a deterrent.
You can hit 100 miles per hour over the strips.
Then it goes to someone sending me a DM saying, hey, I went 100 miles an hour with the strip. I play the video.
I don't look like 100 miles an hour though.
He literally just sent another one.
So it's showing a familiar truck speeding through the rumble strips.
So, what happened since the Canoga shuts down? What happened in the last 3 years?
At that time, I assumed that people were just going to find, 10 new streets to race on. But in the valley, since then, I don't think there's really been any new street that really took over or took the place of Canoga. I think when that street died, it pretty much killed most of the racing that happens inside of the 818. Now most of the races happen elsewhere.
Were you guys really looking for another street, or did you think like, okay, well, we're gonna make Peoria great again?
I know people at that time were saying they were looking for streets. Me personally, I wasn't really driving around looking for streets, but I know of people that were, and the streets they found weren't really too good. They each had their flaw. So the few races that do ended up happening in the valley after that kind of resorted to the older streets we had, which was Glen Oaks. Then like randomly there was a couple races on San Fernando Road, but neither one of those streets ever reached the amount of races that Canoga had, like on a weekly basis.
And if you're curious or what are the qualities for choosing a street, you should listen to one of the previous episodes where Edward explains what are the criteria for choosing a street. Perhaps what also killed the street racing business in the valley was the fact that all of a sudden police didn't need to really worry anymore about Canoga, and so it could concentrate on the other 2 free streets that are there, which are Roxford, Glen Oaks, and Peoria, and B&B, right?
Yeah, but like I said, those streets don't really. I don't want to say they're inactive anymore. Or they're inactive now, but they're not really a problem like Canoga was.
To those in the street racing, my God, one sec.
For those that are part of the Los Angeles street racing community or just the car community in general,
to those people, there is a big white elephant in the room that we avoided to talk about it, and we will not talk about it in this Chase a Race podcast, which is the death that occurred at Canoga in February 2015, when 2 people who were part of the street racing community lost their lives when one of the 2 cars lost control immediately after the start. Edward and I decided not to talk about it because there is no much to talk about it. It just happened. And as Pooh said at the beginning of this podcast journey, nobody's innocent at street racing, but still, it was a tragic event. I don't know if these Rambo strips were a consequence of that, and a bureaucratic labyrinth took 2.5 years before they could actually be applied. So 2.5 years from the accident to when they actually put them down. But what I can say is that shutting down Canoga is a move that at the time I thought was going to be very reckless, because I thought that people would have tried other streets where they weren't familiar with, so there could have potentially been more accidents. The question remains why there isn't a track for people to race at, why people need to go on the streets, because as Edward said, it's not that the phenomenon died, it's just that some other streets got busier. right?
Yeah, it just moved to other locations.
Oh, I forgot to say good morning at the start of the episode.
You know what? We need to start this all over. It's not official.
Or maybe we just say it now to say goodbye. Good morning, Edward.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Tiziano. We'll end this here.